Hello, Victor. Nice
Good
to see you
morning,
again.
Daniel.
Nice to see
Thank
you
you. Bit,
again. Finally, after so many um, tries. And
a little bit of a gap, yeah,
yeah, a bit
yeah,
of
yeah. We've been a bit busy with the preparations for the Nirmal Arts Academy, the Culture of the Spirit Festival, and a tour, a 30th anniversary tour of a play by Theatre of Eternal Values
wow.
called Shakespeare's Women, and we're going to take it to the Avignon
Avignon.
Festival. Yeah.
That's very good. You already told me what I want to ask, but that's okay. That's my fate as the so-called journalist. You take me the question and answer before.
My apologies. Yeah,
No, no,
let's
no.
unravel it
Just
slowly. Let's just unroll it slowly then.
Just joking. For the people who are watching us, welcome, dear people who are looking to our little conversation. So I'm very glad that I find. So the guy who is there is not classroom three. That's his name is Victor Vertuni. Probably he keep that from. So just for you to know that this person is Victor Vertuni. So not sure if you can change it, but doesn't matter. We
I
we
think I'll
make the
try.
adjustment. I forget to tell you, sorry about that, before we started, but that make all the things
But
more.
we can always start again.
Nah, nah, we will lose the spontaneity. So, dear people, today, for me, for us here, which are upside down, you believe that we are upside down, is the winter solstice. Is 21st of June. For you, is the middle of the summer. So from now on, my dear friends, you will start going back to the shortest days. But will be a while until there. I count the days, so that's why I know it's a
Mhm.
winter solstice for us because from now on we are going up. Anyway, very happy to meet you in that very special day. For us was another special day because we just came from a fair, giving realization to the fair for 2 days. So
Wonderful.
it was a very good days for me. We have a program as well. So, but let's start with what we have in our program today. If you remember, dear people, last time we start talking about the history of Theater of Eternal Values. Victor already starting that story. If you want to watch it, you are welcome to go back a little bit, few good weeks. But from now on, we will talk about that in probably at least another one or two episodes. And Victor is very kind to share with us some of the pictures. You will see them for the first time, like myself. He didn't show it to me as well. Looks like I'm not very trustful, joking. Those pictures will be part of an anniversary book, which will be 30th anniversary of the Theater of Eternal Values. Everybody is excited about that book. I will ask you later when you will launch it and other details. So enough with my so-called presentation. My wife told me that I talk too much, so I have to make her happy. So Victor, please stop me. Um, just start telling your story where you leave it last time.
Well, thank you for the intro. I mean, it is the 30th anniversary since the formation, if you like, of the company, registration. But Shri Mataji started talking about it in 1995, and actually a lot earlier in the UK. There is a prequel to all of this in which you can see that it was very much in her attention some years earlier to create a theatre company. In fact, from her youth, because she wrote plays, produced plays in her student days, and she always dreamt of having her own theatre company. That's what she told me in Mumbai when I visited her after the performances in Mumbai of The Imaginary Invalid. And so it had been her wish to have a theatre company, and so Theatre of Eternal Values was formed in 1996 officially as a theatre company, and she guided it from the start. She gave us instructions about every aspect of it, including the casting. So the first cast of our first play was actually blessed by her attention. I brought the CVs of photographs of the various participants to her, and we talked about the casting, the characters they would play, and she gave her blessing for each and every member of the cast. She gave us the title of the first play, The Imaginary Invalid by Molière, who was a realized soul. She gave the company its name, Theatre of Eternal Values. And we can say to all intents and purposes that this is the first theatre company ever created by a divine incarnation, you know. And I think that in itself
Very good point.
just justifies the book. I mean, that is practically the real reason why we've put this book together, to actually pay homage to her, and the blessings that she gave to all the arts through the creation of a theatre company, which is, if you like, a composite art form that includes or can include all the other art forms, and indeed many cultures as well. So it's a Sahasrara of the arts, if you like, celebration of the arts, a workshop in which they interact collectively. You name it. Theatre is a meta art form, you could say, or but also the most challenging because you have all the different points of view, all the different um, conditionings, egos involved. So it's quite challenging as well, you
But
know.
it's involving music, it's involving dance as well, it's involving uh, uh, painting for the background and everything, even sculpture, even furniture, whatever. So that's a very
Costume
complex.
making, yeah.
Exactly. So that's a very, I'm looking more for the music. So the music and the dance probably, but others are also bringing, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you know, absolutely. But, you know, if you like, at the heart of it, is the human being, um,
yes,
present on stage, engaging and connecting with other human beings.
yeah,
But in that moment, there is not just a symbolic representation or a storyline, if you like. The actor assumes a character, the characters interact, there is a plot, but there is also, being yogis who have a connection at the Sastrara, there's an opportunity to channel energy and vibrations to the audience, into the space that create conditions in which the audience can also have an awakening of their subtle system and their kundalinis. And actually had the opportunity to verify this in various moments, with the audiences who would remain seated, you know, after the performance, unable to kind of just enjoying
yeah.
and absorbing the atmosphere. And you know, often applause isn't the measure of the success of a performance. Sometimes silence is more significant, and in some cases that took place. You had moments of silence, you know,
Oh,
and the barrier between audience and performers was actually, you know, not existent at that point. You just had a communal sense of oneness in the moment, you know. And I think that was very magical when that used to happen. However, the whole process of getting there was actually challenging, fun, and we started, as many projects do, in Sahaja Yoga, from with practically with nothing, no resources, just goodwill, pure desire, and whatever support we could muster in the process. But the fact that Shri Mataji um, started the theatre company and guided it um, was an enormous privilege that also opened a lot of doorways, and there was a lot of help along the way from the Sahaja Yogis who took this project to heart and helped it to take place. So it was very much a collective endeavor. I can, if you like, start sharing
Yes, please.
pictures as we speak. Oops, I'm coming forward. I shouldn't come forward. Right. So basically, after Shri Mataji, can you see this picture here? Yes.
Yes.
All right. After Shri Mataji, she said that we should draw from all the talents in Sahaja Yoga, that there were many talents. So the call went out, by telephone or email in there. No, we didn't have email in those days. We didn't.
Yeah,
Maybe we
a bit
did, but
early.
nobody
Yeah, a
knew.
bit early for emails. Yes.
the, the call went out, and so many artists rallied and came to the first inaugural workshop that was held in a barn in Belgium in 1996. And here you can see a workshop going on. I actually, perhaps even the first rehearsal, but you can see the first members of TEV there. And they all came from different backgrounds and artistic, if you like, schools, if you like. We had the French, Lecoq kind of physical theatre movement. We had English classical, Ken and others. We had the sort of Austrian and German kind of school of theatre, so much more disciplined, you know, and uh, and if I can go here, let me just see. I just skip right to, ooh, this is like a time machine. Here we are. Oh yeah, here we are. In one of, it was very communal, probably. This is very reminiscent of ashram life, and we were like a traveling ashram when eventually we went on tour. But this is, you can see a lot of serious, from the barn where we had our creative encounter. We also had around the table talk about how the company should be organized, where it should tour, and you could see that it was quite intense and fun.
Uh, Question. Who were the first people, probably the one who are gathered here around this table,
Ah,
who participate to the first discussion? So Shri Mataji told you to do that. How you probably you know some of them or you ring them. How you choose them, or how is the process?
well, I made a few phone calls. I called Tim Bruce, I called Ken, I called Reinhardt in Austria. Um, I called a few people, but also in America, and then I started getting calls, from people or everywhere. I don't know how the word spread, but people would write to me, call me, and we set a date to have this workshop. But I think it was word of mouth. There was the word got as far as the Himalayas, not there. No, literally. Also, there was in Nepal. Geeta was in Nepal when she heard about it, and but she couldn't participate at the workshop. But as soon as she returned to civilization in inverted commas, she met me. She came up to me in a puja, I think, and introduced herself. So I was surprised myself to see how far that call had gone, and it just is a measure of how should we say Sri Mataji's blessings influence around the world. That there was this kind of network of yogis who spread the word, about things, and it really was a an international endeavor. Um, I'm going to go, asymmetric or not chronologically. This is um, our performance in Edinburgh, and we would actually go into the streets,
Hmm.
into the throng among all these different performers and compete for our audiences. And you can see we enlisted our children even. There's
Yeah.
Leo carrying a banner. Um, there's Purna, there's Alexandra, Sandy, Matron Hume, there's Debbie, who played Louison. Um, let me see if I could find. Actually, hang on. Let me just scroll through so I don't skip. Let me do this in a slightly better fashion.
Uh,
Yeah, here we are. Here we are.
uh,
This is again um, in the streets in Edinburgh. We were all made up and ready to perform. Here we are again with placards,
wow.
and and um, and that was our, you know, the public. We went into amongst the people, if you like.
Yeah.
This is very much a contrast from the. This was our first seminar,
Hmm.
so black and white, if you like. Nothing had really manifested yet, and then we come to the production. So
How
but
long
it was
will takes from the first black and white picture to the one on the street?
oh, I think it not very long actually, 2 or 3 months.
Wow. Wow.
Really, 2 or 3 months. Coming back.
How you choose the people? Because I suppose, as far as I understand, your um, uh, the answer to your call was probably bigger than you expected, or I'm right?
Yeah, yeah, it was. But from I mean, you could say that miraculously, almost all the people who got in touch were perfect for the roles. that,
So
that, that there were.
you don't have b- to turn back some people.
It wasn't a question of that. It was a question of also of availability. That sometimes they might not have been available in that
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
and but I seem to remember that Shri Mataji, when I showed her the prospective cast members, she said she approved all of them. I can't remember her actually not saying no, perhaps not next time, or not. She did in one or two cases suggest a switch in the roles.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember exactly which ones, but Mother would look at the picture, ask me about the role, and she said, no, perhaps this one. So Mother actually was it the casting director, if you like.
She knew the script. She knew
Yeah,
Molière.
yeah, she did. I mean, she suggested Molière,
Yes.
who was a realized soul, and I think we talked about it. I wanted to do. We talked about his various plays, and The Misanthropist was the one that I wanted to do
Uh-huh.
because I had a slightly bleak view on the nature of humanity at the time.
Hmm.
And Gita came along and suggested The Imaginary Invalid, which I then um, spoke with Mother, and she said that was perfect. She Mother was very one of the things she said was how brilliant he was and brave he was to expose the hypocrisy of the time,
Yeah.
you know, um, and said he was a really great realized soul. So
Wow.
that was. Um, I had been expecting perhaps to do the Ramayana or Mahabharata or something, and we were. So Mother gave a very clear direction in terms of artistic choices, both in the choice of the dramatist, the play, and the performers. Here we are scrambling on the ground because, believe it or not, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and we were doing some physical work there before rehearsals, and again we went back to the barn as we called it in Belgium, which was and very close to Everbeck Ashram, several times in order to rehearse. Um, what else can I show? Yeah, again, I
Mhm.
mean, here it's interesting. We're in Edinburgh again, and here you can see Tim and Ken, who came from a much more kind of British kind of tr theatre training in theatres, and here they were in the streets, and with Didier, who was a very accomplished and versatile musician who played bars as well as theatres, but he was much more used to also street performances, whereas Ken and Tim, I think for them it was something, fun and unusual. And Mother, again, this is an example of the deconditionings of getting us back to, how should we say, a very direct form of theatre, and having to go out literally and busk for our audience. And actually, to be honest, I remember once when we arrived in Paris for our performance on our tour, we'd actually spent all our money on petrol to get there and actually didn't have any food, anything to eat. And I remember we were in Montmartre and Didier said, all right, you go round and sightsee. I'll be back in half an hour. And he came back in half an hour with a hat full of cash,
You see,
and we had crêpes on Montmartre thanks to his musicianship. He'd gone and done some busking for us, and he fed the whole cast.
wow, wow. It's good to have a musician in the gang.
Yeah, 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 very much. I mean, again, here we are, um, all of us trying to get our audiences in Edinburgh. So very humble beginnings, very and a lot of work to bring us all to a similar level, performance level. It was also, I mean, oh yeah, here's a color picture of our first inaugural board meeting, if you like, the first board meeting that
Okay,
we had.
can you present some of the people just for the
Yeah, I
radio?
mean, here's Sigrid Mertens, who played, she played in the first production, and this is Andre Posman, who was a person that Shri Mataji had pointed me to, who was someone who'd set up an association in Belgium called the Rode Pomp. And he had a lot of experience in setting up a non-profit
Mhm,
organization. So he kind of helped us to get registered there in Ghent.
mhm.
And then here now I'm unfortunately this is Ugo who was the designer who was involved in our actually he was involved more in later in Blake's Divine Humanity that he designed the set for that, so it was Martin Moore who designed the first imaginary set, but here we had a designer, an artist. Myself, looking very bullish with my City of London braces. Here we were having a business meeting. Caroline Durant, English, and she was very, very helpful in organizing in the promotion. And her husband was a graphic designer who designed our first leaflets and posters for Edinburgh. Then we have Ken, a very, how should we say, one of the most accomplished, oh, what happened there? Actors, trained with actors. And here we have also Tilman Schillinger from Germany. Now, he was in a famous TV show called Unter uns. And he was actually one of the few people earning a decent salary amongst all of us. At least maybe for a first couple of years, he was also a benefactor of the company. As a result, generously helping us to be able to travel and to feed the company as well as perform in it. Um, and So I would like to sort of take us a little bit. Okay, we went on tour, and once we'd rehearsed in the Red Barn, sorry, in the old barn, everything. A lot of people were involved across Europe in designing the set. We had an Austrian set designer. We had costumes that were made by people from the UK, and so we and basically, it was really an international production. We had some time off. It's interesting that when you get out of your role, you'd think, you'd go off and do other stuff. But in many cases, we enjoyed creating something new together and enjoyed, singing together, dancing together. It was really a lot of fun. Um, Now, I wanted to show that, we were very much a family-oriented company. So our sons, Leo and Maxime, traveled with us
Hmm.
in a big yellow van. This is George Barberton from South Africa. So we had a South African yogi actor. This is Didier again, the ubiquitous Didier. Um, Here we traveled, this is in Italy, the arrival of the cast for rehearsals in Voghera, because we would have to, as time went on in this 3-year period, we often had to recast.
Hmm.
And so here we were, you know, rehearsing in Italy. And we had George, who was a new member, Patrice there, who was a technician. Um, this is Hervé, who was Nicolette's husband. He helped us uh, adapt the set for Cabela. We performed in Cabela
When?
um, before Shri Mataji, 1997, I think. Um, and it was at a Guru Puja. Um, and and so a lot of work went on. This is Nicolette, who had played Toinette in The Imaginary Invalid. She was also painting the set.
Hmm.
Um, and the men did nothing as usual. No, not true at all. This is a moment of rest. Um, uh, and I just wanted to show that nature played a very big part. Most of the cast wanted to rehearse outdoors, from our earliest rehearsals to um, workshops to our actual play rehearsals. We often rehearsed outdoors.
Hmm.
And here we have a lovely picture of Ian Maitland-Hume, who hosted us in his cottage near Edinburgh when we were at the Edinburgh Festival, and he's wearing a kilt
Hmm.
um, and cooked a wonderful barbecue for us. Here we are in Montfermeil in France, the historic ashram. When we performed in Paris, we were staying there. And I'm skipping. I'm so sorry about this skipping
No
around.
worries. Yeah.
Um, it's very interesting because we stayed in so many different places, and it was a formative period of Sahaja Yoga, so there were always tours going on. Um, People were moving from one country to another. So TEV was also a bit like that, and it was also very much work in progress. Work in progress. This is the castle in Cabela where we lived um, for that period, but it was also being renovated.
Hmm.
So, you know, it was like a big workshop. Sarjoga was a big workshop, if you like. And Teb was also a big workshop and traveling ashram, if you like. Um, Here we are in, yeah, we're in Köln. we were in our tour, and here, oh God, I'm really skipping around here. This is just to give flashes and
Mhm.
insights.
Yep.
Um, I don't know if anybody recognizes the lady here in the center. It's Purna, my
Purna,
wife.
I recognize Purna. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so we always had new people joining us, and here, one of our crazy rehearsals in the field. As I said, this is in Italy. And again, what a contrast. Here we are in a theater,
Wow.
in Austria, with our set. And so a lot of contrasts. This is a beautiful photograph. When we toured France, we actually managed to go to visit Monet's home.
Looks
Looks
like
like a
Monet.
painting.
Yeah, that's I want to say.
And we drew a lot of inspiration. We also traveled across the channel, land and sea and by air in
Hmm.
our tours. A lot of late night pasta after performances.
Hmm.
This isn't very chronological. Here again, here, this is when we were in France, about to see the Monet home.
Yep.
I mean, let's say we're flicking through a coffee book. Let's just say this is this is Patrice mounting lights in a theater. You can see from all of these pictures that it was intense.
Yeah.
It was intense and, believe it or not, irreverent. This is like a moment when the hypochondriac Argan from the Imaginary Invalid is getting medicated by a doctor with this huge syringe, and obviously that got a lot of laughs. Um, and I think at this point, if you could help me out with a question, because I wanted to get another folder out.
Uh, it's not about helping you. I'm really curious. Um, who are those people? Uh, how they manage? They just have a free time to go everywhere. How the things was working? You already told me that to change the distribution, but how the things was working between you? You are traveling a lot, obviously. They have a lot of free time, or how the things was working?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think for the first 3 years, people made time, and also for several months, perhaps did not have an income, you know, because we just about managed to find the money we needed to pay for the petrol of the tour. So I think and feed everybody. So it was very hand to mouth. Um, and and we had to do a bit of fundraising. And I remember asking Shri Mataji um, for permission for that, for fundraising within Sahaj, and she said, yeah, she said yes, of course, it's all Sahaja Yoga after all, it's all Sahaj after all. She said to me in India that artists should be paid for their work. I mean, there's a very beautiful story there. I mean, in terms of the financial viability of everything, are we seeing some pictures here? Can you see?
Yes, I can see. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
As I tell this story, I will show pictures. We were in India as well. That was um, we had to get to India, so I had to raise money, and that's when I went to Shri Mataji and asked her if I could do some fundraising, which she agreed. She approved and gave her blessing for, and we managed to get it so that every, uh, the the collectives in which the actors came from, and we had actors from 7 different countries, 7 or 8 different countries, would sponsor the fare, the flight of their actors. So that's how we managed to get them to India. And then we had to do some fundraising. Now, I remember, this is, by the way, what the performance actually looked like. This is, I'll just scroll through.
Yeah.
It was hilarious and creative and dangerous and kind of bizarre sometimes.
So you've
It,
been with this show in India.
yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Let me see. Do I have any pictures of that? No. I don't. Yes. So what we did was we got to India, and we got to India,
90,
and
98.
no, 96, 90, it was December.
Oh, in 96, right away. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a huge adventure, and we managed to perform in Mumbai at the Sophia Baba Auditorium, and Shri Mataji um, invited us to her home after the performance. Shri Mataji did not attend the performance because it was the period in which Ganapati Pule was happening and her tour was happening,
Yeah.
but she called me to Mumbai. Um, it kind of to her home in Mumbai. It feels like I'm really rushing through all of this, but I wanted to tell this story because
Yes, please.
it's very special. I don't know what you see on the screen there. Do you see
No, we
anything?
can see just each other, but tell me the story because I really want to know. So you haven't been with the show to Ganapati Pule yet.
Um,
So you present the show to the Indians.
we yeah we've performed in Mumbai, and then we go to Ganapati Pule, perform there. Uh, and that was a very interesting experience. It's worth telling as the story in more depth in the future. But we returned and we were staying in Washi Hospital, and which was quite appropriate because some people were really kind of had issues, health issues. And then I get a phone call, and it's harsh. No, it's Hari, and he says Shimataji would like to see you, and you should bring a suitcase. And I was very curious. Wondered what it was for, and he was very enigmatic. And he said, "Just bring a suitcase." I said, "A large, small, medium suitcase, just whatever suitcase you have, empty." Okay, so I come along. I get to Mumbai, take a taxi. I arrive there. I'm waiting outside Shimataji's the living room of her daughter's home in Mumbai. Um, and somebody goes in before me, and he'd introduced himself to me as a composer, a musician, and that he'd written some of the bhajans and artis that we sing. And then he goes into Shri Mataji, and Mother graciously she talks to him, and then she starts working on him, on his left nabi in particular. And then he leaves, and then it's my turn. And Shimataji then moved to a side sofa. Tea was brought in, so CP was there. There was a cake, and Mother gave me tea and cake. And she talked about she was talking about the performance, and she said to Sir CP, "Look at them, how dedicated they are. They came all the way to India, and some of them even left their jobs to do it, you know." And at which point I wondered, as you do, whether we'd made it. Mother was saying it was a good thing or not. I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
or whether we just. But it became apparent with her whole tone that she was extremely pleased, and she said actually that theatre would have died out if we hadn't started the company, and that it had been her dream from her student days to have her own theatre company. Um, at which point I thanked her for the privilege of being part of it, and she said she was praising it so much that I kind of felt um, I kind of helped. I thought I said to Mother, I hope it will be a success to honor your blessing to us.
Yeah.
And she laughed and mused, and she said, "You have no idea how big it will be one day, how big it will become one day."
Wow.
Uh, so evidently there was more to it on a subtle level, than was apparent to us
Yeah.
from our very, how should I say, modest efforts at the time. Then we moved over she moved over, so CP left, and she came over to her throne. So from the sort of seating next to Sir CP, she came to another seat, and
Yeah.
where there was also I remember the sheepskin carpet, and Mother was sitting there in this armchair, and just so regal, and then
Change the
she
tone.
got Harry to. She talked to him in Marathi. Ah, yeah, yes, and she said to me, Where's the suitcase?" So
Okay.
it's outside Shri Mataji. She said, "Well, bring it in." So I did, and it was as one with a zipper, kind of medium size, and she said, "Open it," which I did, and then Harry came back with armfuls of rupees that were stapled together, and he dropped them into the suitcase. Uh, and then she sent him back 2 or 3 times until it was brimful. And I was just gobsmacked. I mean, I didn't know what to think. I had no idea what was going on, literally didn't. I was just looking at her feet as you do. I wasn't looking, you don't look at them at that. You look at Mother's feet as her disciple. And then she said, "Well, you can close it now." So that was quite something because it was stuffed full of money. So I had to kind of stretch the soft cover and get the zip around, trying not to sort of get it stuck with bills that had been sort of stapled together, but still it was brim full, and closed the suitcase and returned to looking at her feet. Then she said, "Well, you can take it away now." And I said, "Mother, where would you like me to take it to?" And she said, "It's for you." What? I said, and the company. And I said, Mother, we I can't possibly accept this. We've been so blessed just by the mere privilege, so rewarded by that blessing that I can't I can't accept. How can I accept it, Mother? And she said, "You will accept it." And I said, you know, "I'm sure, Mother, I speak for the whole company if I say we would like to donate it to Sahaja Yoga." And she said, "Well, we're doing quite well at the moment, thank you. There's no need. For Sahaja Yoga, others can give." And she said, "You worked for it, didn't you?" There was work. Well, yes, Mother, we rehearsed and things. She said, and the audience enjoyed it, didn't they? I said, "Yes, I think so, Mother. Yes." Then they paid for their paid tickets. "Yes, Mother." Well, artists must be paid for their work. So I said, thank you, Shri Mataji. I was, tears were coming into my eyes and I said, Shri Mataji, how shall I distribute it? Should I give more to the senior actors, the professionals,
Yeah.
those who have families? How should I? And she said, it's up to you.
Wow.
And then I thought in my head popped a th question. I will be able to pay that 1 million lira phone bill that had arrived before we left. Because in those days it was expensive. You didn't have these packages. It was like calls to India and faxes to India and
You are talking about Italian lira.
yes.
To make
Yeah.
sure that everybody understands what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And as soon as that thought came into my mind, Shimataji started saying, well, these the exchange rate is not very good with the rupee. You should spend it in India. You
Mm.
should buy gold, which is very good value, very cheap, and clothes. You have lovely handmade clothes here. And it was evident to me that she wanted to reward us.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was, and we had to accept that blessing. And so
absolutely.
I took my leave of her with this huge, heavy suitcase, clutching it like this, and took a taxi back to Washi, where the cast were languishing from their various ailments and fatigue. And when I came back, everybody was extremely curious to know what had gone on. And so we decided to go up to the roof. I don't know why, it was very hot, but actually it was late afternoon at that stage. Purna had found a chocolate cake, a saka torta in Washi. I don't know how and where from, and tea. And we all went up and bought this suitcase and Purna started giving out tea and cake, but nobody touched the cake. Everybody said, "What's in the suitcase?" And I said, it's a gift from our mother." I unzipped it, opened it up, and I tell you, of course, the notes sprang up,
Like
but
like
like a
in the
jack in the
movies, you
box.
know. Yeah.
But there was this cloud of joy, of bliss, of love that just enveloped us, and everybody just melted. Like the chocolate cake had already melted, but we melted into tears. Just the blessing.
Wow. How you distribute it remain the question.
I think in certain amount of discretion in terms of proportion, knowing the circumstances uh, uh, mm, and the family needs, and the fact that maybe somebody had been, studying and working and had left their work, and others who were maybe students still who just joined the company. And I think to a certain amount, there was a certain amount of discretion involved. But what's for sure is it always seemed like a huge amount because they were kind of single rupees and 10 rupees and 50 and 5. Like, everybody had sort of piles of it. And we all went to market and I bought Purna Mangala Sutra, the
Obviously.
first, the first real Mangala Sutra, and
Obvious.
some clothes. Yeah.
You can disclose, or is too nosy for me to ask the total amount?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I can't remember. We never, I don't know, somebody, there might be a piece of paper there somewhere. But it was not crores. We're not talking about gigantic amounts of money. We might be talking about, I don't know, maybe it was the takings from, I think in Ganapati Pule, actually, the audience paid for the,
Yep.
for the show.
Yep.
But they also paid in the Sophia Baba Auditorium. Now, my chronology is terrible. We have to go to the book there, but it might have been the takings from the show, part of it. I don't know. But we're not talking about massive amounts, but we're talking about an inestimable quantity of blessings that followed through what Mother had said at the beginning, the first time she talked about forming a theatre company in Italy, and when she said you must form a professional theatre company. In my mind, the question popped up. How will we finance it?
Yeah.
Which I didn't put into words. Again, reading my mind, Mother said that artists, as she was looking at some paintings that had been brought before her to adorn the walls of the castle, Mother was that day was choosing the pictures, and then she brought up the question of the theatre company. But in my mind, that popped up about how it would be resourced, and Shri Mataji started talking about how artists in the past had made such a sacrifice to give the world such beauty and elevate their attention and bring their attention to values beyond materialism, and that they had often ended their lives in poverty, starving in cold garrets, which is the attic of
Yeah.
maybe, uh, and and then somebody had then profited after their death and made fortunes. And she said, but no longer, not in this lifetime. So she had clearly indicated that she had this the circumstances, in mind in which art actors and artists. In latter years, recently, I was pondering over this, and I was I was reading about this history of Modigliani, the Italian artist who was in France at the time of the Impressionists, or perhaps he was a post-Impressionist, how he had suffered, how he had died in penury, and his artwork. The critics and the art agents had conspired not to sell his paintings in his
Wait,
lifetime
waiting
because
for
they
him to
knew
die. Yeah.
they were waiting for him to die.
Yeah.
He had TB, and when he did, they capitalized on that. So there was a conspiracy to really
Yeah.
to do that. So in many ways, Mother, as I said, I feel was created TEV to nurture, to bless and nurture, inspire, bless and nurture all artists, all art. Um, uh, because, as I said, it's a collective art form.
I have a question for you. I want to come back a little bit in India to your performance. And this question, it's in my head since you told me that you perform to the non-Sahaja yogis. So how you manage to arrange to perform to the Indians, to the non-Sahaja yogis? I'm right? You
Yeah.
perform in front of the ordinary
Yeah.
ordinary people. How you come to this idea? I thought my first thought was that you come to perform to Ganapati Pule in front of the Sahaja Yogi. You are a Sahaja Yogi theater company. So all of the sudden, I learn now that you perform in front of the Indians.
Yeah, yeah, because that was the whole
And
point.
my yes, but now now makes sense. But um, what was the outcome, how they receive it, because also it's a completely different cultural background. So how the Indians get it? Obviously, being a comedy will be in a way easy because people laugh the same in any culture. But this is I want to know if it's possible to tell me.
Yes, 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 and believe it or not, I've got here
You have
the
some pictures from that period?
yes, I do the India period, yes, which I'm gonna share with you. Well, they loved it because I mean in Mumbai, I mean you had people who were familiar with theatre, but perhaps Indian theatre.
Yes, exactly. So they are used with their way of performance, not with the Western one.
No, that's right. But they, I mean, it was in English and it was very comic and it was comedic and it was like very how should we say physicalized
Hmm.
and uh and very funny. You know, it was like I mean, I can in some ways it's almost reminiscent of kind of silent movies from the
Yeah,
20s where you know with
yeah.
Chaplin-esque and and they really seem to enjoy it. Um, and Molière, of course, was famous. But I think in many cases it might even have been the first time they ever went to theatre, and perhaps not what they were expecting from yogis. But I mean, we were not there as yogis, let's say publicly. We were as an international theatre company.
Yeah.
We got a lot of press. We did interviews, but we um, talked about how the theatre, this imaginary invalid, represented the internal existential malaise of people who were deluded by materialism and conditionings. And through the process of in a comedy, found those illusions uh, challenged and then had to face themselves. And therefore, um, but also there was also a question of arranged marriage.
Hmm.
Um, arranged, you know, Argan's daughter, Angélique, is married to this complete idiot who's the son of a doctor, but very rich and was a doctor, and she was in love with someone else, you know, and so that in its that was also part of the play, and I think to a certain extent, you know, that also was relevant in the context. Even if Shri Mataji said to me, "This is," she said that one of the reasons, the reason she wanted it to be performed was to show the absurdity of Western life.
Yeah.
To the Indians, the young Indians who were watching
Hmm.
MTV and getting satellite television. They were being corrupted. Ah, this is Rajiv Goel, who was included in the cast because it was very much, I feel, important for us to have local actors to show that we're not just a Western company, that we
Uh-huh.
are. Sahaja Yoga is a global family, if you like. And so he took a role in it. Here we are in Ganapati Pule. This is Sigrid, and we have Katrin in the middle, our director, and Gita Hahn. Let's see if I can come back. Yeah, these are moments of. There was a lot of fun you can see and camaraderie uh, involved. This is a particular photograph where we were stranded on a station in Mumbai trying to get to Delhi. And what happened was the tickets had been bought, but there was no room for the luggage. There was sort of um, nowhere to put luggage, and there was standing area room. We would have had to stand, I think, or f in the train, which was already packed until Delhi. So we couldn't get the actors and the luggage on board. So we just decided to stay on the platform and we rebooked for another day. But you can see how and imagine how everybody must have felt. And we traveled with all our costumes. So it was quite a trek.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. You were asking about the audience.
Yes.
They loved it. And I think this is very important. And I think this is an opportunity. Um, I mean, here we can see our kids. People brought their kids with them. I mean, it was like a traveling family. Um, Now, how did the audience feel? I think if you are watching a play that may not be very interesting, performed in itself, and there's a lot of talking, and you're watching a normal production, you could be very bored,
Yeah.
and you might even feel awkward and tense in your body. But uh, we saw time and time again that people who didn't understand the play, or the words of the play in English, including the French, I might say, because it was translated from French, enjoyed it. The attention was flowing like at a program of Sahaja Yoga. You had the working out of the vibrations, and then the vibrations would flow. And then at the end, you would have I feel what people were not tense, they were relaxed, they were absorbing. So I feel that, as Peter Brook said in his famous book, um, the empty space. Uh, Ideally, you create conditions for the unseen to become visible, um, to and in many and sometimes even for the unknown to be known. I would say the unknown, which is the unknown self or the spirit, to become known, because there is a vibrational field that elevates your attention, brings down tension, and elevates the attention sympathetically with the actors, but also subtly through the the charging of the atmosphere with vibrations. Because essentially, when we used to do is raise our kundalini, meditate together, sing Mother's three mantras before we went on stage. So if you like, there was a substrata, an underlying connection that allowed us then to play our roles in a detached way, whilst somehow being aware of the spiritual intention, if you like, of our performance, which made it and a celebration of creativity, but also an offering to the divine of the performance. So it was like a puja. I would say um, for us, it was preparing to go on stage. It was like preparing to make an offering to the divine and to share that with other human beings. So, um, if you like, it reminds me of, and this is one of the opening chapters in the book, in which Tim Bruce talks about approaching Shri Mataji in 1989 after a performance and asking Shri Mataji, or was it might have been a public program, um, but he asked Shri Mataji directly, is it possible for an audience to get self-realization from in a theatre production,
Mhm.
in a performance? And she said, yes, of course. Now, for anybody who might just simply feel that theatre is a bit of storytelling and representation, it's more than representation. It is actually a channeling of energy um, and vibrations to the audience.
That's a very interesting subject, Victor. Um, I truly believe that a real form of art can change you and channelize you to the right direction. But I'm not sure how long this not feeling, but this endeavor will last. So I do not take from the art, because I experienced that myself, a fullness. How I don't know how to define it.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Let's call it a fullness.
A
Even before Sahaja
fullness.
Yoga, after Sahaja Yoga, any form of art. Can I listen to some music, or watching a fantastic movie, or painting? All of the sudden, I feel like overflowing. Probably it's the best way to describing. But this is cannot be substitute to the self-realization.
No, no, it can't. I
The
agree.
self-realization will stay. This is just a moment. The person will feel fantastic, go home, and is not like saying that. I don't want to say that it's not good to do your best, especially as a Sahaja yogi, to fulfill that role to the people who are not Sahaja yogi and help them in a way to have that feeling.
I feel okay. This is important. It's important to state this.
Yes.
Um, if you go to a beautiful Mozart concert, he was a realized soul, and there are many others, Bach. I mean, there are many others, or a contemporary music. You can have that moment of transport, of emotional connection beyond physical, material reality, and you get into that. I not necessarily having a Kundalini awakening, though. It's more of a bringing into balance because the emotions are charged or
Yeah.
fed, and it's inspiring. And you leave the performance space, and people go back to their mundane lives. Nothing changes fundamentally. They have a memory of a nice experience. When you go to a performance performed by a realized soul, in which or realized souls, in which the energy and vibrations and chaitanya is flowing. And they have to be good, of course, as well. They need to involve the audience. And that's their work as artists. But then the channeling of the energy awakens the Kundalini in many people. And they have an experience of thoughtless awareness, um, of, of awakening, um, of this and the opening of the Sahasrara. That can happen, and it has been described to us by people who we never met before and never came to a program and described the experience. So it's a fact. Even that's not our intention, our aim, because that's the work of Sahaja Yoga. That it does happen. Now, there is this also distinction between a musical performance and a theatre performance, because in music you can have that experience and you go away there with that lovely feeling, and it gradually, as you said, fades away, but you remember it as a high point. And that gives you a benchmark against which to measure other forms of experience. It's a high point. If you go to the theatre, you may have that experience with the word, the logos.
Yeah.
And the logos can somehow uh, impress you with a message. And that message, or yes, it's through the process of the play, you come to an understanding about something that also goes in, is remembered at a mental level. It goes into your, and that's when you take away the values. You appreciate the value of what you have seen, and it can make you reflect on the nature of life, on human nature,
Yeah.
and lead you to take a step in your evolution.
Exactly.
Um, and bring and in
Analyze.
Yeah, yeah. So it leaves you with the feeling and a message. So it's logos and pathos. And in the moment when those two are into balance, the emotions and the message, the ideas are in balance, then you have ethos, ethics.
Yeah.
The value is impregnated and can then be transformed into a change in your behavior. So it's not just a theory, but it can be actually embodied. Now, I feel that um, uh, this is it can sound abstract, but philosophy is abstract. Religion is mechanical and abstracted from the experience of spirituality. But art cannot, is only art when it also involves the emotions.
Yeah.
And when the
Absolutely.
balance comes whereby you feel something and you don't just think it.
Yes.
So I feel that, and just finally, it's after the people have this experience, we didn't just leave them in limbo. There
Mhm.
was always something written on a piece of paper that we practice Sahaja Yoga, and we've been inspired by Shri Mataji, and they have a connection to then maybe deepen it, go to a program and find out more about it. But we were never given the agenda by Shri Mataji to do realization, because
Yeah.
if they get their awakening in a concert and in a performance,
Yeah.
and you start giving them a lecture
Yeah.
and go through something mechanical,
Yeah.
I don't think it's adding something. I think
No.
it's actually distracting them from the state that they have reached.
No, no, no.
Then what you need
When
to,
I start the subject, that wasn't my purpose. Why you don't give the realization to the people? No, no. I get it, and you've done it the right way. So
no,
I
no, I'm
don't.
not taking it as I'm taking the
Yeah,
opportunity to
yeah.
say, in various contexts, if you were then to do it, people have paid a ticket, they're coming to see a performance,
Yeah. And they get a
um,
performance.
and that's what it is. But we give them clues if we have a
Yes.
newspaper interview.
Yeah.
Now, as an actor, um, and a yogi, I have to say that there's no greater pleasure than actually giving someone realization physically, raising their kundalini and working on them. At that time, you know you're doing God's work. Mother is present,
Yeah.
and you are following her. We are actually doing her work, and so there's no encroachment on the territory. However, um, a yogi who is also an actor, an artist, but just as a cook, if you're making a cake and you're putting your vibrations into it, people will
Yeah.
get not just the taste and the nourishment nutritionally, they will also feel the love of the maker.
Yeah. Those are the little things which probably happened to us in some previous lives and get us uh, in this life to be able to recognize Shri Mataji and coming to Sahaja Yoga.
Thank you.
So
I think that's it. I think I've got to go in a minute,
that
unfortunately.
yes, I know. I was looking at the clock, and yeah, I know we are close to the end. So I want to thank you. Looks like you still have a little bit of more stories because that was just the beginning. You have more other tours to talk about until we get to the present days, because there are another nearly 30 years of talking. We
Oh God,
just
yes.
scratched the surface now. So I'm sure you have more other stories about the other tours which can make. If you have pictures, will be even better.
Yes. Yes, yes,
So
we do definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I haven't even talked about all the tours in the schools in Austria, all the people who helped us, all the, and but it's all in the book. I just wanted to say that for me, it's just important for everybody to know that Sri Mataji followed, created it, guided it, inspired it,
yeah,
gave instructions for it, and also we learnt a lot of lessons. I think next time I can talk about some of the things that went wrong that
okay,
are very useful for people to know and
okay.
we can benefit from. So I'll leave that as a kind of
Yeah,
in suspense.
in suspense, hoping that will hook. We don't need to hook the people because I'm sure they will be interested in that. But I leave it to the end for the question about the book. When will be out?
It's okay. It's been written. It's been impaginated, but there's now proofreading. It's being it's been proofread, but it's being proofread by the publisher that will be La Cultura della Madre, which is a branch of Casa Madre, which of course is part of the foundation, is
Yeah,
the active commercial end of the foundation. And all things being equal, it should be out by September in time for Ganesha Puja, we hope.
okay. I will like to have the book soon as possible to make sure that we can have a presentation of the book, and maybe more people
Yes,
will heard
yes, I
about and
can.
be able to order it.
Yes,
But
and I can.
yeah,
We're going
uh,
to have also more members of the cast online as well at the time. A bit from them as well. You can meet other members of the initial
will be
group.
fantastic. So another idea, you steal it from me. So
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
having few members talking about that and having a
We're
little bit
connected.
of buzz around
Yeah.
will be fantastic. Dear Victor, I thank you very much for everything you told me. Always very, very interesting. Even sometime I know the subject, but this time I didn't, so was a double treat. Thank you for sharing the pictures and telling all the stories. Please remain a little bit after we finish to manage to arrange the next meeting, because I don't want to tell to the people now because we don't know
Okay. No, we don't know.
when
No.
will be.
All right.
So thank you again, and thank you, dear people who are watching us. I hope everything was very interesting for you. Jai Shri
Lots
Mataji.
of love. Jai Shri Mataji, lots of love to everybody. I'll stay.